Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to High Vibing It. As always, we are very excited to have you here, and we have a special guest. So we're also very excited to introduce you to. Her name is Julia Munck, and she has created this wonderful thing called Sage. We will get more into what that is in a minute, but today's conversation is really all about spirituality and incorporating it in bite-sized pieces into your daily life and integrating it that way. And what are some fun, accessible ways to connect with spirituality and practice and, all the things that we love to talk about on the show. So we're really excited to have you, Julia. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. I know this interview has been a long time coming. So today is finally the day. We're recording this on Valentine's Day. So happy belated Valentine's Day to everyone listening to this. We hope it was fabulous for you. But Julia, I'd love if you could tell us a little bit about how you got started into teaching spirituality and promoting this type of way of living. And I'm really curious to hear about this Saturn return moment that I read about in your bio. So tell us the deets.
Absolutely. So I would say I lived most of my life in a pretty mundane way, meaning I wasn't like that much into spirituality and magic or whatever. It was just not part of my daily life. And I grew up in Sweden. It's very, very pragmatic society, not necessarily religious, but just like very practical and science-based and all that stuff. So that was my upbringing. So like the spirituality realm was never really something that I was connected to. And then I was, entering sort of my midlife crisis or whatever. It's going to turn 40. And I was getting so stressed out. And I just couldn't understand what was going on with me. Because if you look at on paper, like my life's perfect, like awesome husband and family living in San Francisco, like dream career. And like everything looked so good. But like internally, I was just like, no, mismatch. Like this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. But it was really hard for me to like articulate it or like we even understand it. So it looked more like depression, which was like not at all in my nature. Like I'm a very like happy, bubbly person. So I'm like all of a sudden like, what's going on? And thankfully, like living in the Bay Area, there's a lot of spirituality here, and a lot of people in my friend group and circle had started sort of dwelling into things like plant medicine and journey work and hypnosis or whatever, just tools, because we were also coming up to the edge of like, is this all there is? Like there needs to be more to life than what we thought there was. And a lot of these people are like highly successful and also just not comfortable anymore where they're at. So right. I sort of got roped in to sit in a couple of really inspiring meetings with, shamans and wisdom keepers, and slowly started like opening the door to the world of spirituality and just like, oh my God, it could be all this, it could be this whole other world in a way. There could be this whole new way of looking at life. And it gave me so much inspiration and hope, to just peek through that curtain of like, oh, what I thought was reality might not be all there is. There's so much more. Like, thank the goddess for that, because it really gave me a lot of like comfort for just like exploring. And then suddenly looking at myself and like, okay, so my career was in gaming and the gaming industry, and I loved it for so many years. Like for 20 years, it was like a dream come true. And I have so much gratitude for my career and all the opportunities, truly. But it also felt like, I don't want to do that anymore. Like, I don't want that next job. I don't want that next title. I mean, I got to the level that I always had dreamt of, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want to do that anymore. So it was really about, well, how can I use what I've got? Because I have this long career in technology. How can I use that to sort of, pair that up with the newfound interest in spirituality and like, just like finding a channel for people to sort of get the word out, like, hey, good news, there's more to life, like, and here's some tools for you to actually tap into that and use it. So that's where the idea started coming through. And I remember in particular a conversation with a woman called Kaya Raj. She's the author of the Sophia Code. If you guys don't know about her, she's amazing. She should come on the show, by the way.
Good idea. My sister raves about that book like all the time.
The book is like incredible. Like just the vibration from reading that book, like it really opened me up. And we invited her for like a full day, just talk with a couple of my friends and her. And she would teach about the book and her story, which is very, very powerful. And then she would have like just like a 5-minute conversation with each of us. And, you know, and her presence is so powerful. Like when you stand in front of her, you're like shaking in your boots. You're like, oh my God, what's she gonna say? And like for some people, she would do like a shamanic healing, you know, she would like wave her feathers around and like clear and do a lot of things. And for some people, she would just talk. And for me, she just sat down and talked. She's like, so what's going on? I'm like, I don't know. I feel blocked creatively. Like, she's like, well, you have this thing in you that you just need to do. Like, I see a lifestyle brand that you need to do. I'm like, huh? Should I? Can I create that? Oh, I didn't thought about that. I thought I had to go create some weird game or something. She's like, no. It's a lifestyle brand that lives inside of you. You just need to do it. You have permission to do it. And it's funny, like her just, you know, a person I don't really know, but she just gave me the permission to go explore that thing. And the floodgates just open. I'm like, woohoo, okay, awesome. Now I know what I can do. And then this whole process starting about creating Sage, which was just such a joyous experience. So it's a funny way. It's like everything just converged. And then there was this like one conversation that just sparked the spark that needed to happen for me to get direction and like really start working on something that gave me true pleasure and true joy, and it felt aligned with what I think is my purpose, you know, at the moment.
Listen to her pragmatic coming out.
Yes,
I think, you know, I think it's my purpose. Listen, the way you talk about this, at least for the moment, this is your true purpose. I totally truly believe that. I do have to ask you, what kind of gaming did you do? Because I'm not like completely I worked at a GameStop for a really long time. I grew up with brothers, so I played video games my whole life. So I love video games.
Awesome.
What did you do in the video game industry?
Yes,
Was it video gaming?
Yes. So mobile games, online games, all kinds of games. So I spent 10 years at Electronic Arts. And when I was there, And but when I was there, I worked on a property called Pogo.com, which is online gaming. It's an online gaming community. It's more casual games. So puzzle games, word games, whatever you play with other people. So it was all this like community based, and it was such a lovely, lovely product. And you know, it was like one of those games where people would meet and fall in love and have babies, and we would get invited to the wedding, and they would send the pictures. It was like a very like sweet place to be. And then I also worked at Big Fish Games, social casino games that they had, Big Fish Casino, and a bunch of other things there. And then I also done a smaller like startup stuff. And then my last job was at a company called Linden Lab that had Second Life. If you guys remember back in the day, Second Life. Yes, and they were doing some other VR stuff that I was helping them with. So like a bunch of different things, but most of them like community-based games, which has sort of been a red thread for me, and which is also carrying forward to Sage, like the power of community, like in gaming, and to actually foster connection. So none of this solo, like bang, 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 but more like, okay, like we're all here, we're talking, we're doing the thing. And so that's sort of, that brings me joy, you know.
And no matter, even if this video gaming thread wasn't where you were meant to ultimately land, I think we can all agree, I hope you'd agree, that that start for you kind of birthed this next, like, I don't see a situation, maybe in multiverse, it could happen, that you could have not had that experience and still been as successful in doing what you're doing now. It truly, from just a knowledge standpoint, like how much did that teach you about what you were going into? And I say that to say, even if you're not doing what you know you should be doing, there is value in every experience. And kind of, we've talked about this before on the show where, you know, we encourage people to squeeze all the juice out of the experience that they're having, because you just don't know how much value it could bring you a year, 2 years, 10 years down the road that you would never have had without this seemingly mundane experience. Or, you know, I know that's not how you would describe it, but for some people, this 9-to-5 job that they just know they're not supposed to be in, what can you gain from it to help you land where you're supposed to land? Do you know what I mean? So I love that story.
Yeah, I mean, and this was actually, and I love that you bring this up, right? So one of the things so Sage would never have happened if I didn't have my experience.
Right.
It wouldn't, right? Because, and also like I know how to build an MVP, like a minimal viable product, and like how do we do that, and how do we look at the data, how do we analyze how people are using it? So that would all have been an uphill battle, right? So I was just perfectly primed to do something like this. And the funny thing, I was blessed to have an executive coach at one of my jobs, and she was a spiritual lady. So of course I confessed to her, I'm like, I'm doing all this work, and like I have this idea of this thing. And so she was saying exactly the same thing, Lindsay. She's just like, well, you have this amazing idea and that's beautiful, but like you have to straddle the two worlds. Like you kind of know that you want to do something else, but there's so much exactly that for you to learn in what you're still doing, is so much growth for you to have in what you're doing. And like let the learnings that you're getting influence all of your life, you know, and like your new ideas and new ventures, you know. So this is how do you actually look at it? And that changed it for me, because I was so over it, and I'm like, ugh, I just want to move on and like create my app and like be done. But that was really just like, okay, no, let's just have patience and gratitude for the experience I'm in. And for me, especially patience, like being a Gemini, I'm like, it has to be yesterday, you know. So it was really but practicing like, no, there's something here, like there's something here I'm supposed to be learning. And like really opening your ears to that, because otherwise you're like frustrated, you just shut down, you're like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
But like,
You're in
no, like,
disempowerment. Yeah.
yes,
And when you can
yes, totally.
acknowledge that, like, no, this is happening for me. It's another
Yeah.
example of happening for me versus to me. How can I take as much out of this as possible? Because it's
Mhm.
happening for me. So much more empowerment. And I don't know if you've heard, but we're all about empowerment on this show.
Yeah, totally.
Spoiler
Yeah.
alert. I
Spoiler
love
alert.
that.
Yeah. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, like when you have that attitude, it's happening for me, it changes everything.
It
Otherwise,
really
like you
does.
get out of the victim mentality. It's like, oh no, this is a gift from the universe. Oh, that relationship, oh, that didn't happen. Or, you know, and I think one of my previous Saturn return was another thing like that, you know, when like everything just falls to shit. Everything that you thought you needed in your life, like, nope, gone. Or the relationship, oh, gone. Oh, the job, oh, gone. Oh, that place you're gonna get, oh, that's gone too. You're like, what? What? So rather than like having, you know, a panic attack over that, it's like, okay, what doors open then? So like those close. So like, okay, I'm not supposed to be, I'm supposed to go over here. And just see where that lands you. For me, that landed me in San Francisco, you know, in 2001. And I'm like, that's cool. I didn't think that was going to happen. And it would never happen unless, you know, the universe doing stuff for me, which I wasn't aware of that then. I was taking it way too personal than I should have been. And like, I think with my mind now, and what I try to instill in my kids is like, no, it's just a closed door. That just means something else is open, you know, just like, don't look at it as a failure or anything. So like, how can we instill that empowerment into people, and just like, there are more opportunities for you.
So many more.
Yeah.
And you can't acknowledge them until you see that it is happening for you. You know, it's just not even in your awareness. But when that light bulb goes off, you see things you never would have seen before. And you're aware of opportunities that would have just kind of drifted by if you were stuck in this one lane way of thinking. Very important topic. I'm glad that we touched on that. Kelsey, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, your story is really beautiful because it's just a perfect example of how there is a divine order to everyone's path and everyone's life and everyone's journey. And to be spiritual and to practice spirituality is to have that knowing of like, okay, I don't know why, I don't know how, but something is holding me, cradling me, taking care of me, guiding me. Like this is not random. One door closes, another door opens. Everything is leading you to something better. So I think that's just so beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story. And it's actually, this conversation is reminding me of a podcast I was just listening to, the Rich Roll podcast. I love his show. And he interviewed this woman who, I forget her name, so I feel so bad, but she wrote a whole book on the science of spirituality and how being spiritual.
The Awakened Brain.
Yes, The Awakened Brain. The Awakened
Lisa
Brain.
Miller.
Okay, Lisa Miller. See, okay, she's on the same page. So Lisa Miller was on the Rich Roll podcast. Y'all should listen. And basically her whole research is about how being spiritual and our spiritual practices affect the brain, and how you were saying how you were depressed and you were taking it personal and you were having the faith. And then as soon as you switched your perspective and connected to your spirituality, that helped to pull you out of it. I have a similar experience too. She explains in the podcast, and I'm sure in her book, that being spiritual and having this faith and this knowing and connecting to like the divine powers that be, whether it's through religion or spiritual practice, however, it does actually save people from depression, from suicide. It connects you to like all the powers that be. So you feel that there is more purpose and more value and more structure. And it was crazy how she was explaining like in adolescence, when we have like our, when we grow up and our hormones start changing, also like we have this call to spirituality and we start questioning life and we want to know what it's about. And a lot of young adults and teenagers spiral into a depression at that point because they don't have mentors, they don't have spiritual resources, they don't have tools, they're not connected to those higher perspectives yet, and they suffer for it. And her whole like message was, if we can practice more spirituality and pass that down to younger generations, we don't have to go through that loneliness, through those long dark nights of the soul, through that depression. So I thought that was really cool, and this just is like another example of that, because I just listened to it like the other day, so it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah, and I love that you brought her up. I'm such a fan of hers. Lisa Miller is like incredible. So yes, The Awakened Brain. Read it or even listen to the podcast. I think she also gives a great visualization example in the podcast on the ritual, which is also just helping. So I have the good fortune to actually have my oldest daughter. She goes to middle school, and she goes to a middle school called Millennium School, and Lisa Miller's on the board, and they're all about mindfulness. Yeah.
Very
So if
cool.
you're in San Francisco listening, you're wondering which middle school to send your kid to, I would say Millennium, because they're just really fostering that spirituality and the gratitude and the kindness in like everything they do, just to create that resilience, like to create a resilient brain, and really infuse the kids with that. So it's just like, wow, that's really mind blowing. I had the same thing. I was reading the book and I'm like, oh my God, yes. And it's like, it's scientifically proven now. So,
yeah, it's funny, like the
feeling that
differentiation between science and spirituality, because the way I see it, science is just a way that people are exploring and trying to make sense of spiritual stuff. Like, why does this plant grow? Why are these energies entangled? Why is this happening? How does this work? And it's all like from prana, life force, energy, divine spirit, unity, God, whatever you want to call it. And people are saying science is separate from that, even though that's like what's under the microscope. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, luckily, my two oldest boys kind of astound me sometimes with what they say. But my oldest was like, we were talking about religion because his grandparents on his dad's side, my husband's parents, I should just say, are pretty religious, Christian, and they're very aware that we're not Christian. And my son was like, we were talking about the difference and spirituality versus religion, I guess. And my son said, why don't people just realize that God and science are the same? And I was like, yes. I got so excited. And I was like, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Because like, it's one thing for me to like break it home, but he actually came up with that himself. Kids are so amazing. And he's 10. And when he said this, he was 8. And my 5-year-old, everybody on the podcast that's listening knows he's just an angel sent from heaven. He just is so connected. But to hear a child say something so profound, like, yeah, why don't people understand this? Why? But, I think more and more they are. And especially with schools like this, come on. And I think that spirituality, it's 11:11. Sorry, I just had to point it out. I think that spirituality, just a moment for 11:11. Spirituality should be such a personal journey that I really just resist any kind of conformity whatsoever when it comes to knowing your God and your specific brand of spirituality, because it's going to be so different. It's so deeply personal. It's one of the most personal things we have. So I just think it's beautiful that they're acknowledging that for kids and just nurturing that, because it is one of the most profound things you can do. And let's just settle it right now. God is a woman. You said it. I heard it. I believe it. It happened, and it's true. So I'm with you on that. But yeah, I love that. I love that your kid is going to such a nurturing place.
Yeah, and all kids should be going to such nurturing places. So it's really like, I hope it's just the beginning of really acknowledging and also being able to talk about spirituality, outside of religion.
Yep.
And yeah, it's deeply, deeply moving, and it can really change the trajectory of the earth we're living on.
And I think, just as a weird side note for me, I think we as human beings knew this. This is not something new. We knew this at one point. We just, so much has happened and we forgot, and we made up all these rules about it and all these restrictions. And gosh, this is so natural. I just wish we would remember, like, guys, it's natural and it's beautiful. It's so, I don't know. It's so awesome. I'm not taking drugs. I just am very excited about this. I'm not high.
High on life.
High on life. High on this conversation.
Oh, that's great. The other day I was like, had the best workout ever, and I was so high on life. I was like hyped up. I could not contain energy in my body. My boyfriend's just like looking at me like, what has happened to you? Like, what is she possessed by? And I was like, I'm high on life.
Can't help it.
Can't help
Oh
it.
my goodness.
It's
So
a
I
good
love it.
feeling. Good feeling.
So can we talk about saged? Because I know that some people may not, this is the first time they're hearing about it. I really want to get people knowing what it is so they can enrich their lives with it. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah, of course. So Sage is your mobile app. You're like your best mobile app on your phone, I should say. It's quick daily spiritual tools for you to do so that, it's not going to take an hour. It's going to take 5 minutes to do. It's a quick daily ritual that is based on whatever the elements are for the day. So we look at the zodiac, we look where the moon is, and we sort of pull from that to sort of create a ritual that works for the energies of the day. And then we have a quick gratitude practice. You can type a whole, as much as you want, or just one thing you're feeling grateful for in the day. And then we have a guided meditation that is never longer than 5 minutes, because it's really about just do something, whatever it is, just drop in and do something every day. And we want it to be it's highly curated, right? So you can take the mind work of like, what should I be reading? What should I be doing? Like, here are the 3 things for you to do. So that's the basis. And then we have other amazing things, like we have moon ceremonies, like live classes for the new moon and the full moon. And we also have amazing teachers drop in and do live classes for our premium community 6 to 8 times per month, which has been really amazing. There's also community groups where you can ask questions, about moon work, about manifestation, or whatever it is. Like, we have so many amazing moon groups where people are really engaged and help each other out. And then we also have, posts on astrology. We have lots of writers who come and give us amazing content. So every day there's like always fresh things for you. But the things that we really want you to do is to come in and do those 3 little steps on your spiritual journey, so that you feel that you have access to that energy, that you calm down, you ground yourself, you get inspired, and then you bring that energy out in the world. So it's not designed sort of as an infinite scroll, right? Like, it's like, you're done. That's it. Now move along, hop along, like, go out in the world and be the amazing you that you are. So the app's been around for about 3 years, and it's growing, and there's people from all over the world, mostly the US and Canada still, I would say. And it's really exciting to be a part of this. And, it's rated like 4.9 in the App Store with like 5,000 reviews. It's like, so it's
That's
just
incredible.
so beautiful. Yeah. So we're really, really grateful. And it's so good to like strike a chord with the community that this is a helpful tool. That's really all we want to do, is like create something that really helps you in your day. And especially when you're just starting to awaken, it's just like, what do I do? Like, okay, maybe you just have a huge experience, you need some help processing it, or staying in the energy and living a more natural, like, life connected to the moon or whatever. And like, this is really a good tool for you to do that. And we love, yes, exactly. It faces the moon phases, and also we of course care about the wheel of the year. So we have big ceremonies for the equinox and the solstice and Ostara and Beltane.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed. I wanted to start a wheel of the year for my kids. I was like, maybe that's too much to like submerge them right away. We wanted to do so many things. I did this year with like getting back to the origins of what we used to do.
And it can be something simple, just like building a little altar, like refreshing your altar for whatever is going on. It's like, okay, let's go bring some fresh flowers, or let's go bring something that signifies, solstice or equinox. So yeah, I think introducing your kids to the wheel of the year it's really important. My little one, she's 6, and she's really into it, like crystals and, what happens when you die, and like it's just very, very like attuned. And the 12-year-old's more like, whatever, I don't know. We'll see how this is, but it's important at least to just continuously like bring them in and like really talk about the wheel of the year, and like, okay, there is importance, because day and night are equal length, but this is a day of balance when it's the equinox. Like, it's a huge deal, and now we're gonna step into the dark or the light or wherever we are, right? So yes, wheel of the year, important.
So 2 things that stuck out to me when you were talking about the app that I think are very important is one, when you're first starting out with your journey, like I know some of our listeners, like this podcast is the only kind of lifeline they have to their empowerment, spirituality, their awakening. And so having something like a community to go to, like in your app, is for some people, that's it. That's all they have, because the people around them aren't quite there or in the same place as them. So I thought that was very important that you mentioned that. And then the piece about like once a day, 3 things, and then you're done. It's not like a mindless scrolling thing. And I think that so many things need to be doing that. Like I know we can do it for ourselves, but like with the Wordle craze, you do 1 word game a day and you're done for the day. And the first time I did it, I love Wordle, by the way. I love it. But I did it the first time and I was like, wait, that's it? I don't just sit here for another 3 hours and do more puzzles, because I would have, and I know a lot of people would have. And I love that it's a cutoff. Like, no, go do your day now. Go do life and then come back tomorrow. Yeah. And I think that that's so important, and more things need to do that. So round of applause all around. I think this app sounds amazing. I love it.
Thank you. And I have to just to add to that, so thank you for noticing that, because it's definitely a conscious decision, right? So also having come from the gaming industry, and one of my job was to suck you in and to make sure you play for as long as possible so we can take as much money from you as possible, and just like flipping that on its head, like, nope, we're not doing that anymore. So that was also sort of the just sort of doing good after having, created entertainment that sucked a lot of time out of people, to just like, no, here's a actual practical thing that's going to further your life in a short amount of time.
And there's another little nugget of value that you got from this experience, because that's knowledge you wouldn't have had otherwise. Maybe you wouldn't have purposely done it, but like you specifically knew, okay, we need to make sure people go on with their day now. Like, yeah, it's so cool.
Yeah, definitely. And then also the fact that, a lot of people are solo practitioners, right? So yeah, you might be the only witch in town, and you might not have, you're still in the closet, in the witch closet. So, there's also a real opportunity for people like that to just like, oh, finally I found my tribe, or I found my people, and I can now talk about these things in a better way. And also we're anonymous, right? So you can show up and use any username. We don't really care who you are in real life, as long as you keep it clean. So it's also like, it's not Facebook where it's like, oh, it's you and that, and I'm going to tell that your boss that you're, so it's a safe place to be.
Would the witch closet be a broom closet? I think it would be. Sorry, I was sitting on that one, so I had to say it.
You had to. It's good.
Yeah, I like that you're all about keeping it simple, because I think as a species, we tend to overcomplicate, and we don't place as much value on simple things as we do complicated things, when in reality, something super simple and quick can be a very profound experience, breakthrough, shift. It doesn't have to be some big, long, explosive, dragging out thing. It can be, 5 minutes of your day tapping into your power, and boom, you're activated for the rest of the week. Like, it doesn't have to be so much. So I think these bite-sized pieces are really game changer. And I love the fact that you do the task and then you finish it, because it's very empowering to finish something. I think so much of the time we get into long projects or work stuff or yard stuff or things in life, and just like you feel like it's never getting done. So to finish something every day, that feels really good to me.
Yes, it is. So you just like, check mark. Spirituality completed for today. Okay.
Spirituality completed for today. So I'm curious, what are some of your favorite daily ways to check in, get inspired, get grounded, like your personal rituals that are some of your faves?
Yeah, of course. So obviously I like my altars. I have altars that are almost all everywhere in the house. And I'd like to look at them every day, and also just coming close to them sort of changes my energy. I'm just like, oh, look at how pretty that is, and like, oh, look at all those crystals. So now we use crystals, or like little goddess statues, or whatever, like things that I have, or flowers or something like that, just to sort of create something beautiful. And some of them would have intention, like, okay, this is for health, or this is for relationships, and this is for work or abundance or things like that. So just have like intention into my altars. But then, I like to anoint myself. That for me is my quick check, like that I will do probably several times a day. So I always have like essential oils at the ready, and also on my altar. So like right now, I used this one before this call. It's called highest potential.
I love it.
It smells amazing. And then I just, simple process. You just put a little bit in your palm, and then you touch your finger on that, and then you touch the crown of your head. You touch your chakra points. So I would just touch my crown, my third eye, my throat chakra, my heart, my solar plexus, my sacral area, and the root. And then I touch, also make sure to touch the wrists, and then behind my ears, and then also under my feet. And then, and when I'm doing that, and I also smell it. It's good. It smells so good. And also just like, hold on intentions, like let this, if it's a meeting or whatever, let this meeting be for the highest good for all, and just to really connect. And just the physical process of actually anointing yourself and touching your chakra points, it really grounds you in your body as well. So I love that. And I do this several times a day. I do it on my kids before they go to sleep. I have lavender that I put on them.
What does your 12-year-old do? Because I don't know how my 5-year-old might just roll his eyes and be like, Mom, what are you doing? My 12-year-old might, or my 10-year-old might be into it, but how do your kids take it when you do this?
Oh, I mean, they love it. It's
They're
like
probably
very
used
calming.
to it, huh?
They're very used to it. So like they know what I tell them. So when I touch the crown chakra, I say your crown chakra to connect you to your spirit guides. And then the third eye to give you visions of the future. And the throat, as I say, you speak the truth. And then touch the heart and say, so that you love everybody. And then the solar plexus to give you power, and your sacral area to give you great ideas. And your root, I call it booty butt. And then I touch their butt. I'm like, and your root, booty butt to connect it to the earth. And then the wrist and your other wrist to make you smell nice. And your ear, the other ear to make you hear beautiful things. And then the foot and the other foot to have you stay firmly on the ground. So it's a process. So we go through this like every night, and they know all the things, and they can say it back, and they do it to me too. So it's a very sweet sort of
I love it.
process, and I highly recommend it. Anybody who has kids, and even your partner, just like it's a sweet way to connect and just like have the eye contact and go through the chakra points in this just like sweet way, and just to calm the energy down before they go to bed.
Kelsey, new Valentine's Day tradition. Let's anoint
Get ready,
our significant others
for you.
Yes.
Kelsey loves that eye contact.
Oh yeah. I'm like, connect with me. Let's turn off the TV. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
I love it. That is such a good idea. I've never actually, I don't think anyone's ever come on the show and explained anointing themselves or even brought it up. I think that's such a great idea to, as you said, connect to your body and remind yourself that you have all these like amazing power points on your body and to connect you to your spirit. I do have some witchy oils that I might want to use. I got manifestation, blessing. I don't have highest potential. I like that one. That one's a good one. But I got protection and all these other good ones. I think I could use those.
Oh yeah, totally.
And you just
anything
say to yourself, like whatever you want to say.
Whatever
like,
it is that you want to pull in, I don't like set the intention and then like touch it to like, you can just imagine how the intention is like pouring in through the chakra points, and it really gets grounded and rooted in you. So that's a favorite. And of course I have more tools.
Yes, tell us. Okay, wait, let me review so I make sure that I know. So you go through all the chakras, and then the wrists, behind the ears, like behind your cheekbone, like where your jaw is, and then the feet.
The feet. That's right.
That's everything. Got it.
Yes, that's everything.
You.
Hey there. We hope you're enjoying this episode so far, but if you want to listen to the whole thing, we're going to invite you over to our podcast. Either search for High Vibing It on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you guys listen to podcasts, or even better, if you want to watch the extended video version of this episode that's even longer than the actual podcast itself, head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/highvibe. Lindsay, tell them what's awesome about the Patreon.
Patreon is where we have all of our extended episodes. As Kelsey said, we have it on video, so you can actually see the things that we're talking about. Sometimes we have visual aids, and it's nice to know what we're talking about. We also have hangouts that we do sometimes that are exclusive to Patreon people. And you can get started with all of this and bonus content and everything that we have only for the Patreon people for as little as $3. I think it's $3.33 a month. And that's it. And you guys can get all the benefits and all access to everything that we put in there. Really cool.
It's really cool, really fun, super easy to join. And you guys don't even have to do that to finish this episode. If you're like, screw it, I don't want to pay any money, I just want to hear the rest of this episode,
go to our podcast, High Vibing It, search for it wherever you listen. It's totally free. Either way, enjoy the rest of the show wherever you choose to enjoy it. And we will see you guys next week because we do a new one every week. Adios.
Bye.